Surprise! It's not the Nona Boss tonight. I've hijacked the show. I've taken it over. What are we going to do? Well, for all of you who don't know who I am, my name's Mary Ann Zabel, and I am the organizer for the Ozark Mountain Bigfoot Conference. But tonight, I will be hosting the Nona Boss Show. So y'all can sit back and enjoy all the shenanigans that we have for you all tonight. We were talking the other day and we came up with this idea that thought maybe this would be a good idea. Let's change it up a little bit. Let's do things a little differently tonight. So with that being said, I'm going to be your host tonight. Won't be exactly the way the Nona Boss does it, but we're going to have fun. So bear with us as we go forward tonight. And hopefully we can have some fun. We'll learn some new things. And you'll get to know us a little bit better. So with that being said, let's go ahead and bring our guest on tonight.
Hey, everybody.
There she is.
It's me.
There she is. It's her. Surprise.
Guys, I am the mystery guest.
You are the mystery guest. Yay. So, introduce yourself.
Well, my name is Marty, and everybody calls me the Nona Boss. How I got that name, I don't know if some people know, but maybe not a lot. Actually just from my grandchildren. They were the ones that I was babysitting one day and I told one of them to do something and the other one said, you better do it because Nona is the boss.
There you go.
That's how I got the Nona Boss. And I've just always, they still call me the Nona Boss. They always say I'm the boss. So
there you go. There you go. Well, let's start things off tonight with, tell me how you got into this. What made you decide to get into cryptids, or was it a choice, or were you thrown into it?
A little bit of both, actually. I had a nighttime sighting back in 1986, and I knew from that moment on, and it was very scary, but I knew that from that moment on, I couldn't get enough of all the strange, anything Bigfoot, anything, weird. I just couldn't, I don't know, like it would just, if there was something coming on, I was watching it, so much so that my kids used to just laugh about it and make fun about it and joke and, ha ha ha, mom, they'd give me a call and I'd be like, what are you doing? They'd be, what are you doing? And I'd be like, well, you're watching Bigfoot again, like, or are we interrupting your Bigfoot show or, and, and then I had another, Matt and my son and I decided we were going to go on an expedition held by Stacy Brown over in Mayaca. And Matt reached out to Stacy and he was like, hey man, we've never done this before. Like what, what's it all about? And he's like, oh, hey, you know, we're it's just gonna be a nice, fun camp out kind of thing. Maybe we might see an orb or something like that. Maybe. And Matt was like, oh, come on, mom, let's go. It'll be a weekend. I'm like, okay, we'll go. That entire weekend was off the chain. Off the chain. There wasn't anything that didn't happen. I mean, we found footprints. I had a rock thrown. Like I was walking back to camp by myself. It's on my channel. It's even in my shorts. And I was talking to one of my friends, like on this app we use. It's kind of like FaceTime a little bit. And I'm telling her, I'm like, oh my God, you're not going to believe all this crazy stuff that's happening. And I'm talking to her, and all of a sudden, just like a rock comes flying over my head. So it was like that happened. We had a tree crash happen. We had stuff being thrown at our tents all night long. We heard howls. We heard screams. We found hair. I mean, it was crazy. And he and I drove home, and we were like, we got to do this again. And then it wasn't very long after that, he started his channel. And I had already, though, prior to us going on this expedition. Hi, everybody in chat. Prior to us going on to this expedition, I think I had already watched Into the 400 probably 20 times. I don't know. I bought it so long ago, and what got me personally started. I had been in the chats for probably a year before this expedition we went on. I had been in all the chats, Bigfoot Odyssey and all that, and I realized I was like watching Into the 400 probably for like the 100th time, and I was like, I just searched Shane's name in the search, and it brought up his channel. I'm like, oh my God, he has a channel. And then I'm like,
you fangirling a little bit there, were you?
I was so fangirling. And I watched every single thing he had. And I was like, man, he hasn't put anything on. And it was probably a year or something. And I'm like, well, I'll just comment on like his very like most recent video he had posted. And I thought, I'll just be like, hey, I really like what you do, and it's cool. And I don't even remember. It's probably on his channel still to this day. But he replied to me. Now you talk fangirl, and then I was really fangirl, and I'm like, oh my God. And I'm telling my son, I'm like, Matt, Shane Carpenter replied.
And he's not on here to hear this.
I was like, he replied to me. He said, and it wasn't like a, hey, thanks for stopping by. It was like this really long, like in-depth, like made me feel a part. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. He just gave me updated information. I'm like, this is so awesome. And it was, and he said, you can check out my, other interviews I've done on these other channels. And that's kind of how I started navigating the different channels and Bigfoot Odyssey. And he was, he had been on Sawdust Beast and a few others. And I was like, wow. So I had been doing that for about a year before Matt and I went on our epic expedition. And then we were both hooked. We were hooked. Hooked.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I hear you. It's like you get out there and something happens and you're like, that's it. I'm done. Yeah. I'll be doing this forever.
Yes. Yeah.
So maybe wheeling me around in a wheelchair.
Right. Right. Exactly. Oh, my son Matt, when he and I go hiking, I mean, he's so good. He's so good with me because he's always like, you got it, Mom? You got it? You okay, Mom? Because, I mean, they're 25 years, younger than me. And I'm like, so they're so sweet with me. They'll like hang out and they'll be like, okay, let's take a little break, and I'm like,
right. Oh yeah. I
but
get
they're good. They're good with me. They're good. No man left behind. Let's put it that way. They're that
right,
good, you know?
right, exactly. You can't leave you out there at all.
Mm-mm, mm-mm. Nope.
So, so was Bigfoot like the first cryptid, or were there others, or was it just anything strange in general?
The first cryptid Bigfoot. Um, First cryptid Bigfoot, but everything else strange too. I was very I gravitated to a lot, of UFOs type stuff. Just anything unexplained, anything weird, anything.
That's why
I
we
mean,
both like Shane.
that that's why we both like Shane. Oh, and guess who just popped up in the
Yeah.
chat? Shane, we're
Well, we
breaking the universe and it's gonna happen tonight.
yes, exactly, exactly. And you know what? It's his fault. He introduced us. So
He did.
this nonsense is all his
All
fault.
his fault.
Yes.
All his fault. It's all your fault, Shane. Sorry.
Yeah, he was worried we would break the universe, and we're working on it. We're
Oh,
working on it.
yeah, we working on it, all right.
We got all kinds of big things planned.
Yes, we do. We do. We do.
Yep. It's going to be a busy year for us.
It's gonna be a very busy year. It's gonna be a very, very busy year. And, but I'm embracing it so much because, you know, getting an opportunity to kind of be in the same, kind of space with you and your team and learning so much from you guys, I mean, it's phenomenal. I mean, I feel so blessed to have been able to, like, meet all of you guys, Shane and Randy and you and your team and all of it's just such an amazing part of my journey that I feel very blessed to be a part of.
Well, and I think that's part, as far as the Bigfoot thing, I think that's part of it too, is finding that tribe of people that
Mhm.
you gel with, because there's so many different opinions out there, and so
Yeah.
many people are not open to any kind of opinion except what theirs is.
Mhm.
And, so finding that place where you fit in the Bigfoot community is a journey in itself.
It really is. It really,
And
really
once you
is.
find that, you sure want to stay with it, because it can be kind of a minefield sometimes,
Mhm.
so
Yeah. I
so
agree
yeah.
100%.
And I'm just ecstatic that you're part of our tribe now.
Thank you.
Yeah, part
Yeah.
of the tribe.
Yeah, we gelled together so, like, instantly, like, we really did. We just really did, and Shane had to have known that we would. He had to have known that. 'Cause
Yeah, because I kept telling him, I'm like, Shane, I don't need any more friends. I don't need any more female friends. I won't do that. And he's like, no, 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 you'll like her. And I'm like, dude, you don't understand. You don't understand. Well, it was me that didn't understand. He
Yeah,
knew what he was talking about.
he did. Shane, we just both admitted that you were right about something.
Yes, take it, run.
Exactly. Run, Shane, run for the hills. He says, boom.
Yeah, yeah. Oh
Yeah.
goodness.
Well, I mean, so my first nighttime sighting that I had in 1986 was a very it was a scary it was scary. It was scary to me, that's for sure. It was my my son's father, one of his favorite things to do down here in Florida, like in the, like in the winter time, we would go out to the levees all the way out in the Everglades and we would drive, hey, Patrick, we would drive the levees looking for snakes.
Oh,
That was like our thing. We love to do it. Well, him more than me, but but because they would come up to the tops of the levees for the warmth on the roads, right?
Yeah.
So, you just drive and they, down here, these levees, they go for miles and miles and miles and miles and miles. You just drive them. And they're only big enough for one car. You had to once you start, you had to go all the way to the end in order to be able to turn around and come back.
Okay.
So it was a weird, and it was, and you could just see like at the edge of he didn't have high beams on or anything. It was just like just regular light, and
Hey, Patrick.
I saw something. I know, right? All these amazing people in the chat over there. Um, I saw it was like I saw something because you're kind of focusing down in front of you. You're not really focusing on really what's ahead of you because you're watching the road, right?
Right, right.
So as we're driving down this levee, it was like it was almost like I saw some movement to the right, and then I just lifted my head just enough to kind of be like just above the lights. And I just saw it came up like, I don't know how to explain it. Oh, Patrick, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. You're such a sweetheart. I'll see you hopefully in September.
Yes, you will, because we'll hunt him down.
We will hunt him down. We will hunt him down. We gonna hunt you down, Patrick.
Yep. Drag your butt up here.
That's right. So it was like I saw the movement. I lifted my head, and it was weird because you're looking at the road, and it's just like it's like this incline that just goes straight down, right? And it's just sawgrass. It's just like just sawgrass, seas of of sawgrass. So I saw something come up like on all fours. So when I first saw the movement, the only thing in my mind, because I saw movement and I saw like it was large, but the only thing in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, the only thing that could be, whoa, like the first thing that went was a black panther because it was all black. I'm thinking, so that's what made me go like, oh my gosh, I think like, and I'm like, stop, right? I'm like, stop. Like he stops the car. And it's so hard to describe it. And I tell people when I've done interviews on other channels, it is so difficult to explain the transition that it did. It was like it's like it climbed up on all fours and it was in this weird position. And then it just did this like as it started to stand up, it took a step. And then as it all at the same time, it was this weird fluid movement that just kind of like stood up, took a step, looked at us for just a second, and it had glowing red eyes. And then it took the next step and it was down the other side. It was like, I mean, I'm like, what? I was like, what? I'm like, oh my God, what was that? What was that? What was it? And he's just like, I don't know. I don't know. And he's like, not in his mind, he's like, we have to go to the other end. We have to get all the way to the end of the levee to turn around and come back. And I'm like, oh, hell no, you're not. I don't know what the hell that was. You are backing it up, buddy. You are backing it up. And I made him back up in reverse the entire way back.
Oh,
but
gosh.
I couldn't, it was about 8.5 feet, much taller than the second sighting. The daytime sighting this was much taller, much bigger, much bulkier, a very patty type body,
Yeah.
thick, big, thick, and just black. And when it looked at us, and it was not eye shine, and I try to tell people, it's like it was illuminated from the inside out, because when it did that transition and it took the step and then looked, it was pretty much standing straight up at that point, right before it took its second step all the way off. I mean, it looked right at us. but it was above the lights. And I don't know, it was scary because in my mind I'm thinking, okay, there's not a whole lot of stuff out here to be that big. There just isn't.
Right, right.
There were no bear where we were. There were no hammocks. We call them hammocks they're little tiny little islands that might just have, some trees or some scrub or something right in the middle of the, like where the sawgrass is.
Yeah.
And other than that, it's just basically swamp and gators and you know what I'm saying? It's not so there's only a couple of things that could have, in my mind originally, I thought, okay, this is like, oh my God, I think this is a panther. But then when it stood up, I'm like, there's nothing else it could have been. I couldn't have mistaken it for anything else. And that, and I'd heard reports growing up down here. As a matter of fact, there's quite a few not far from where I grew up, actually, down here. Some very famous ones, actually. And I always heard about the skunk ape. And I hate that word, and I'll tell you why. Because whenever I've been anywhere, and I know that I know they've been around me where maybe I didn't even see them, but I knew they were there. I've never smelled anything. Never. I've
I
never
never
smelled
either.
anything weird. Nothing
No.
strange. Nothing like what people describe, right? So I always hated that term, that name. And I've never had I never had another sighting and we would tease the kids, and my son will tell everybody. He loves to tell everybody because what we used to do. This happened. This happened way before I ever had my kids, right? So I
Mm.
knew that they were out there. We knew they were out there. We did. We knew it, but we still would go out there and go camping, and we would tell the kids, "Don't get out of the back of the truck because if you get out of the back of the truck, the skunk ape is going to get you."
Well, yeah.
And we would be like, "Don't get out of the back of the truck. Don't get out of the back." Like when it was time to go to bed, y'all go to bed. Don't get out of the back of the truck. Um, they still give me a hard time over that. Now my daytime sighting was very, very, very different. Um, and I did pull up a couple of pictures. So I can kind of show you, I'll kind of like explain what happened during the interaction. And then I'll kind of show you guys the photos, a few photos of like where it was at. So it was in Big Cypress Preserve, and we were hiking, and it was me, it was Matt, his fiance at the time, and she is a photographer, and she uses like this, fancy like Canon like camera, right?
Right.
And we were we were walking down this trail, and I had looked over and I saw this really huge depression, big, big, big depression, almost looked like a crater, like huge. And it was I don't know, maybe 20 feet or so off the trail. Give me a second, guys. I'm sorry. I'm still recovering. Let me just get a drink here. And I said to Matt, I said, look at this thing. I got a photo of Matt even like standing in the middle of it with his arms like totally stretched out. Like it was that big. And then it looked like on one on each side, it looked like like a tree pulled down with these like cabbage palm fronds kind of laid up against it. And and right in the middle of this depression, when I say the middle, I don't mean in the middle of it, but if you stood in the middle of it and you just looked towards the woods, you saw two game trails come to a V right where that depression was. So Matt and I are trying to kind of work it out in our brain. We're like, well, wait a minute. Like, okay, 2 game trails coming and literally leading at, and then at the right where they meet is this big depression, which was, and it had to have been probably 1.5 feet deep, maybe. It was really deep. And something had been there at some point for whatever, I couldn't tell you. Sorry, guys. So he and I are looking, we're, maybe these are blinds, maybe this, we're trying to work it out. Caitlin was kind of watching us, but she was standing on the trail. She had her camera and she loves to take pictures of everything. She's so good. Next thing we knew, like a stick from the other side of the trail came flying past her and landed between her and where we were. But it came from the whole other, on the complete other side of the trail. And we're like, everybody's like, what was that? What? So we came out of that area and started looking across the trail. Matt was to my left, Caitlin was to my right. We're probably about anywhere from 5 to 7 feet apart from each other. And Matt, he just starts like he's trying to see where it came from. We heard a little movement. I look up and it was like this calm, this peace, this serene moment happened. And we locked eyes and it was like, there he was. And I say he, I can't tell you if it was a he. I didn't see any evidence of what gender, but I got the impression of male energy. And it was like we locked eyes, and it was like maybe 5, 6 seconds. And then he just, like a periscope, went straight down. Just straight down. And I'm standing there going, I'm like, I just saw it. And I couldn't even really get the words out. It was crazy. And then and then I'm looking and I'm looking and I'm looking and I'm taking pictures and I had a selfie stick and I pulled it out and I turn it on and I start taking photos and I take photos and I just go click, 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 and then back again, click, 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 because I'm thinking maybe I'll catch it. Maybe I'll find it somewhere in my photos when I get home. Matt heard motion, heard something off to the left. And then Caitlin took off to the right. She just started taking pictures, tons and tons of pictures going that direction. And it was just this, and I'm just standing there. I'm literally just standing there and I'm staring in the same spot for, I don't even know, the longest, because it was like, I don't know. I think in the moment, I think I thought maybe he'd kind of pop back up again. You know what I mean? But
right. Yeah.
But he never did. And then I get home and I'm like, darn it, I got to find him, because it was strange. It wasn't the same body type. It wasn't the same color. What I saw that day had a very closer to human look. It was this beautiful, like auburn color. It did not have a conical head. It was very round. The hair was very short. It was, or from what I could see of him, like from it didn't look, it was very short. The skin was like this soft, ashy gray. And it was just, I don't know. I know that a lot of people have a lot of very traumatic, encounters. And this wasn't that. I felt no fear. I felt completely calm. I felt like, wow. I felt like on some level, and I know it sounds strange, but on some level, I felt like it was like he wanted me to see him. Like Like he wanted me to see him. And then I got home, and of course I didn't see anything. I didn't have anything. Nothing in the photos. There is something strange in the photos that I found. That's in a whole other video on my channel if anybody wants to see it. There was some whole other weird thing I found, but it wasn't what I saw, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
I goes to so this was March of 2022 is when this happened. That was in March. Then the next conference was coming up was in Ocala. And I think it was I'm sorry, it was in Ocala. Oh gosh, hold on. I'm getting confused. That was I had to write it down. March 13th of 2022.
Okay.
I go to the Ocala conference June of 2023. Across, like, I get a chance to meet I'm so sorry, not Ocala, Gatlinburg. Huh, Gatlinburg. Can't keep my dates straight. My conferences and my dates.
Right.
In Gatlinburg, I had known from previous conferences at the Ocala, the Lakeland, and other Florida conferences, I had known and met Mark Muncy, who talks and does a lot of books and wrote a lot of books about Florida lore and cryptids and Robert the Doll and all kinds of paranormal things, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And his wife is an artist. So I was at their table at Gatlinburg, and I was flipping through this is actually this one right here is one of hers,
Okay.
one of her prints, one of her drawings. And I'm flipping through her stuff, and I'm just like, and it just stopped me dead in my tracks. And I'm looking at this, and I'm like, I said to Mark, because his wife wasn't there, I said, Mark, does your wife do, like somebody gives her a description and she can like sketch it? Is she like a sketch artist? And he goes, oh yeah, yeah. And he goes, well, which one are you? I show him the one I'm looking at. And he goes, yeah, that's Dave Shealy's.
Oh, okay.
And I said, are you kidding me? This is Dave Shealy. I mean, this is what Dave Shealy had actually described to your wife, and she sketched the skunk ape he saw. And he goes, yeah, that's his look. He goes, turn it over. I flip it over. Sure enough, it's got all the information on the whole thing on the back of the photo. I'm on the back of the print, and I'm like, I said, oh my God. I was like, Mark, you don't understand. I had a daytime sighting only about 25 miles away from where Dave Shealy had his. And I'm like, this is exactly what I saw, because what I saw wasn't big, bulky Patty. It was like slender and basketball player kind of build,
Yeah.
And it didn't look like anything like Patty. And I don't know, when I saw it, I was like, that is the most validation for me. Like, because Matt didn't see it, Caitlin didn't see it. I was the only one who saw it. And it was like, OMG, he's right here in this photo. So I have it. That is it right there. That small print, but I'll show you guys. I will share with you guys. I'll put it on the screen here. And this is as close to what I saw that day. That's pretty much what I saw.
Wow.
And it just blew my mind. I just couldn't believe it. I was just like, and when I look at it, I still get that same feeling, like calm, peace, nothing scary, nothing, I don't know. It was such a peaceful moment in my life.
Well, you hear a lot of people talk about their experiences are traumatic, or
Mhm.
they're aggressive, or that kind of stuff. It makes you wonder. It's like, well, okay, what are y'all doing out there? Because I mean, we have gone out several times, different areas, and never, ever had anything remotely aggressive happen,
Yeah.
you know? And it's like, okay, so did they get several warnings and didn't pay
Mhm.
attention to them? And then they got the aggressiveness? Were they doing something that, was maybe offensive? I mean, I don't know, if you go out there with that mindset of just being a shit, for lack of a better term,
Right.
it's like that's just what you're putting out there. So that's what you're going to get back. I
Mhm.
mean, and you guys were just out having a nice little walk. You weren't threatening.
True.
So,
Yeah, we weren't. And we were just out having a, just on a nice hike. And I will tell you where we were at, the area we were in, there's a lot of hikers there. A lot
mhm,
of people go there. And Matt and I always kind of had this thought in the back of our head, like, because okay, let me show you. I'm gonna show you. Let me pull this down. Okay, so that happened March of 2022. I went back to that spot September of Labor Day weekend of 2023. So I'll show you guys both photos so you can kind of see, but let's see. Okay, this is the area. This is where, and how I found it the second time around. And I don't know if anybody, I tell people too, like, if you have a photograph, even if you don't have a photograph of like said Bigfoot, you at least in the metadata of your photos, it will give you the GPS location.
right.
So when I went back this past September, that's what I used. I just used those GPS coordinates and walked straight to where I had the sighting.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
it took me perfectly exactly to the same spot. So, okay, so this was the day I had my sighting. This was the day of my sighting.
Okay.
And the short little palm tree that you see there is that's a cabbage palm.
Okay.
Or I'm sorry, a sable palm. My apologies. Just to the right of that sable palm, there's two trees, right? You've got the bigger one that's in the foreground and the smaller one that's kind of in the background.
Mhm.
And he was right in between those two trees. So he was about 50 to 60 yards away from me. But everything between me and him is just thick, 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 thick. Like you couldn't go walking through there even if you wanted to.
So basically, he could drop down and you wouldn't see him at
Wouldn't see
all.
him. No. Now, there is another area that you could possibly get around towards that back area a little bit, but behind all of this that you're looking at is nothing but sawgrass. Straight sawgrass. It's this huge, gigantic, nothing but sawgrass. And then, like, probably 300 yards on the other side of it is a tree line. So it's
Now,
like,
so the sawgrass, I have never been through it. Okay. It'll tear you up, right?
oh, yes, it will.
Okay. Because that's not something that,
Mhm.
I mean, I've never been walked through the sawgrass, but my understanding is it's pretty brutal. It's
It
not
is. Because
okay.
it's tall too, you know what I mean? I mean, it's gonna be 5, 6 feet tall sometimes. I mean, it is going to shred you apart. There's no way that you can just go start walking through unless
Right.
somebody somehow has made like pushed it down and made a trail somehow, some way. Um, you're just not gonna do it. but it's a swampy, it's very swampy back there. It's kind of like a water, it's part of this water conservation area way back in there too. So like it's not accessible. You can't get there.
Right,
You
right.
cannot reach that area where he was at. You couldn't. You can't. You still can't. So now this is from 2022. And let me pull that one down and I will show you the one from 2023. Now, the one from 2023, interestingly enough, I have to stop sharing that one. This has been, so it was like a year and a half between, me taking these photos. There have been numerous storms, and it's just thick as thick. Did I just put the wrong one up? I did, didn't I? Hold on. Sorry. Put the wrong one
It
up.
looks pretty close.
And everything was very overgrown. And I went by myself that day. Oh, no, that was the right one. And I went by myself that day. I was a little, gotta say, I was a little unnerved a little bit by being out there by myself. I was a little
Right.
bit, but I did a live though. I did a live. Ask Gary and Jean. I know Gary and Jean were in the live with me, and some of you others. I think Laura might have even been there too. I did a live. I went back there. But this time around, it was a year and a half later, and there was hog sign everywhere. And I was very unnerved about that.
Yeah.
But I found bobcat prints. I found a bunch of other prints, but you can see, I mean, it's even thicker now than it was a year and a half ago.
Oh, yeah. I mean, something could be sitting back there and you'd never see it.
You'd never know.
Yeah.
You would never know. And yeah. So it's, a lot of people, I know a lot of people are like, oh, run after it. Run.
No.
You don't do that down in Florida, okay? You don't do that. You don't do that. No.
You don't do that here in Missouri either. No.
I mean, down here in South Florida, because like we are tropical, right? Like the southern half of the state, we are tropical. We are considered and we're in the tropics. Mid Florida to North Florida, it's just like y'all's woods, right? They're open, they're big. You're not seeing what we have down here. Oh, thank you, Cindy. Thank you so much. Thank you. That's so sweet of you. Thank you so much. So it's not the same. It's you just can't just go traipsing in swamps and traipsing around in sawgrass and traipsing, everything down here will kill you.
Because you're kind of like Texas. Everything's out for you.
For real. I mean, I guess the thing that bothers me and scares me the most are human beings. But I mean, there's humans, then there's hogs, then there's big cats. The smaller ones that we've seen bobcats. We've even seen, some lynx down here. They don't generally bother you. The panthers, they're this little, you got to be a little careful with that. We don't really see a lot of bear, but alligators, gigantic pythons, I mean, there are even hyenas down here.
Wow.
After Hurricane Andrew, there were a lot of species of animals that got loose from the Miami Zoo.
Zoos. Yeah. Okay.
And they're still out there. There are some popular. We've even heard reports of Bengal tigers. I don't know. I've never seen one, but I mean, we've had supposed reports of those. But there's a lot. You just can't just go chasing. But people do that all the time. Be like, oh, if he was just right there and he was only like that, why didn't you? You just can't down here.
Well, that's kind of like here in a lot of places. First of all, the hills, they're straight up and down. they're covered in rocks. If they're not covered
Mhm.
in rocks, they're covered in blackberries and all kinds of thorns, or
Mhm.
that's just so thick, it's like I can drive to work and off one of the main highways here, you can't see 5 feet into the trees. So it's like,
Exactly.
what can be standing there? When you can't see 5 feet in, what's back
Yeah.
there?
Yeah.
They can move around back there all the time. So
All the
it's
time.
like, you don't really have to be out in the middle of nowhere to find
Mm-mm.
these things. Not like,
Okay.
I think a lot of times they're closer in than we really think. I mean, on the fringes, because who knows, maybe they raid the trash cans at night.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard
Well,
people talk about
y
that.
I really believe down here too that, because these, waterways and canals and these levees, they're all connected. I
Mhm.
mean, all connected. As a matter of fact, the community that one of the communities that I manage, there's like 19 villages within this it's huge. It's this big, huge place. And they had several sightings of a Florida panther in the middle of Boca Raton.
Oh, wow.
However, it's not far from one of those levees. When you
Mhm.
look, you can be standing right there looking down the levee and you see all the way to the Everglades, unobstructed. Like, it's I do believe that these things travel and use the levees to do it
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
definitely easier.
I think they do that here too. They travel the waterways
Yeah.
because we've got creeks and rivers and I think
Mhm.
they move through that stuff all the time because first of all, that keeps them close to the water source. And
Yeah.
there's food because not only are there fish, there's the crawdads, that kind
Mhm.
of stuff like that. We have small mussels type stuff. Um,
Thank you,
but yeah,
honey.
they move through that area. It's just common sense that they would stay in areas that have that.
Right.
Shane and I were talking about what they eat through the winter time and times, when there's not as much in the areas. And it's like, here in the wintertime, there's still like the deer and squirrels and rabbits, but there's not so right now, we don't have the greenery, but there's walnuts,
Mhm.
there's
Mhm.
acorns, that kind of stuff. And it's like, but how much of that do they have to eat in the wintertime to sustain themselves?
Mhm.
That was one of the conversations we were having. Do they have a metabolism that maybe slows during the winter so they don't have to be out doing that? I mean, at least up here, where it gets cold
Right.
and there's not persistent vegetation for them.
Yeah, yeah.
I
I
mean,
know.
this is one of those questions we don't know.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people down here are like, "Oh, where do they go when they're, hurricane?" Listen, even the ducks that live on, I got a lake behind my house, like, even the
Right,
ducks,
right.
they don't go all they do is they get as low to the ground as possible. That's all they
Mhm.
do. Because when you're nice and low to the ground, all of the winds, they're not all the way they're up here.
They're up
So
higher, yeah.
yeah. So, I
Mhm.
mean, it would be very easy for them to not have any issues, getting through these kinds of storms. The only thing in my mind, now I have heard reports, actually Marie Dumont talks, I've heard her talk about it. Her group is Mid Florida Bigfoot research group. I've heard her talk about in an area I've not ever been in, and it's called I think it's called Fachahachi or something like that. And I've
Mhm.
never been in there. Her and her team actually found a large nest up inside an area, and she said it was plenty. It would be plenty big enough for something 8 feet tall to be in there just chilling above, up off the water, out of the water.
Mhm.
So I think down here, the flooding is usually the worst part of being here is if we have a lot of rain and there's just nowhere for the water to go. You know what I mean?
Right, right. Yes, Patrick, I will tell him you said hi. And no, this is not wallpaper, it's material.
I was just gonna bring that question up. I starred that question. Does
Yeah, no.
anybody else have any questions for me or for Mary Ann, and if I'm sorry, guys, um, I haven't been paying as much attention to the chat as I normally do. My apologies. Um, but let's talk a little bit about you and what you got coming up and going on.
Well, in April, we have a BFRO expedition that we're doing, and we're going into a new area that we've not been in before. My husband and I have been up there and scouted it out. So kind of excited for that one. It's still currently open. We still have a little bit of room left. And then we're going to try to do something private in May. And that'll be close. I have a small area here that's like less than 10 minutes from the house where these things have been heard a lot. They're very vocal in that area. And I want to get down in there and start doing some work as far as recording. Okay, Shane, he's going to bring this up. We had this conversation today. He asked, do I think they store food? I don't know. It's like we were talking about it. We were talking about this because the conversation was they have found seeds in the scat from pawpaws. Pawpaws are only around in the fall up here.
Mm-hmm.
They're finding the seeds in the scat several months later, like in the middle of winter. They shouldn't be there if they ate them in the fall. So we were trying to decide, we were talking about this, do they have a system to store this? Are they just sticking it in a cave? But how long would it still be viable?
Right.
Because if they're just putting a pawpaw, I mean, I guess if they stuck it in a cave far enough back, it would be like putting something in a storage, a root cellar, right? Cold storage. If they got it far enough back in there, it might last long enough. But then the other thing that Shane had brought up was, I think there were some tribes in South America, I don't remember, so don't quote me, but getting them dried out. Well, then you go, okay, how do they cut them open? Are they using tools? I mean, it just turns into a big rabbit hole, right?
Right.
It's like, how do they get them dried out? Are they cutting them? Are they drying the whole thing out? How exactly is that? Are they laying it in the sun and letting it dry out? Are they putting it in salt? Are they, I think, Shane had said there was, limestone, which around here, everything's limestone, So it's like, it's a whole thing of how are they storing that food? Are they storing that food? What? It just makes more questions, makes more questions.
Right. It does for you guys up there, because down here, I mean, other than just, having, may have a lot of rain, but not, our weather here is so consistent or fairly consistent, and don't have the different seasons. We do, but we don't, you know what I mean? We have it's not like what you guys go through up there. So it's very, it is always something I've kind of always thought about too. Like how do they survive these harsh winters? But again, like you said, you go down these rabbit holes, you do.
Yeah, because it's like, okay, so let's say they're not as active in the winter, and maybe their metabolism does slow down. I'm not saying they hibernate. I don't think that at all. We know that sightings are a little bit lower in the cold of the winter and the hot of the summer. So it makes sense. They're not moving as much. But like in the wintertime, does maybe the metabolism slow down to where they're not having to have that high calorie intake that they do the rest of the time, and they can get by on these things. And it's like, maybe they do stick some things away back in the cave. They've learned over time that these things will last a while longer. They've got them to eat, I don't know. It just, then you start going, well, what about this and what about this? And yeah,
Right.
you're down the rabbit hole at that point,
Yeah.
until we find a cave and it has all this stuff stored in it.
Right.
We're
It's
waiting for Shane to
true.
do that.
Yeah, Shane,
Come
we're
on,
waiting
Shane,
on
come
that.
on.
I mean, can you get on it, man? Can you get that? Can you get that? Come on. Let's go, Shane.
And I don't have the scat. You'll have to talk to Shane about the scat. I don't keep it in my freezer like he does.
Shane, that's gonna make it really hard to date. I just throwing that out there.
Right,
Yeah.
right. He probably needs to label that so that if anybody does,
Right. Well,
yeah.
I do know somebody too that I don't know if Brian's in the chat or tonight or not, but he's got a sample that he has that he keeps in his freezer in a sweet and low box. I'm like,
Yeah, I think I
Brian.
saw a comment about that.
I'm like, Brian. So now every time I see sweet and low, I love you, Brian. Every time I see a sweet and low box, I'm like, oh, there's Brian. Thinking of Brian every minute. I'm like, oh, that's Brian Barber, him and his sweet and low.
Uh-huh. Well, we've gotten completely off what we were doing, but so yeah, we've got the expedition. We're going to try to do some private stuff, and then of course in September we have the conference.
That's right.
And we are going to do the conference September the 28th on Saturday, and we will be camping out afterwards. So after the conference is over, we're going to be going back out to the private property that we went to last year. I've been talking to that gentleman, and he's very excited to have us back. So we're going to go back out there. Oh, you do not stop that. It's Shane. He doesn't have samples of anything, and he doesn't have pictures of anything. So no.
We're bringing bacon. I'm just saying. Loads of bacon.
Yeah. There'll be a lot of licking.
That's right. I can't say it. I can't say it. Oh, yeah, a lot of that going on.
But yeah, so we're gonna camp after the conference, and we will be out there through Tuesday. We'll be breaking camp Wednesday morning, and hopefully, that's going to be phenomenal, like it was last year. I mean, I think we'll be more in tune to what to look for, because in this area, they're quiet. They don't do a lot of vocalization. They do knocks and clacks and things like that. Now, we did hear last year when we were sitting up in the woods, we heard an elk bugling in the middle of the night. So I was informed later on when I was talking to someone about this, that apparently they don't do that in the middle of the night. And they only do it like at specific times, which I did not know that, because we don't have elk around here. I mean, we do now, but they were brought in. So, I'm not real familiar with elk habits. So that was kind of odd. And it was an odd sounding elk. We all kind of went, what was that?
Kind of like an elk with auto tune on.
Exactly, right. Or that 800-pound owl, exactly. So yeah, we're going to go back into that area. I have high hopes for that. We're going to be meeting with the neighbors this summer and seeing if we can expand, out into a little bit farther. We definitely are going to go back. We're going to get into the sassafras patch this year. That
we're
we didn't
doing it this year.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
We
So
all need shirts that say Squatch Bait.
I got mine. I've got mine, so we're good with that. And then in October, we'll be doing another BFRO expedition. And so
busy.
Yeah, busy.
So anybody So anyone who wants to join either your spring expedition, the BFRO spring expedition, they just how do they get a hold of you, or do they go through the website? What are the steps?
What they do for the BFRO is they go onto bfro.net, and it has all the states listed that there are expeditions in. And you click on Missouri and you just go through it. There's like a facts page, and at the bottom of it, on that facts page, you submit, because you have to answer 2 or 3 questions, send an email in, and then the secretary, Caroline, will reach back out to you. And then from there, you'll be put in contact with me. We still have openings for April. They have not announced the dates for October yet. They don't usually do that till after the spring one is done. So, but yeah, we're getting close on that. So if that's something that anybody thinks they want to do, I would tell you to go ahead and get on and do it. And I have really high hopes for this area. We've had, we've heard things out of there, and we've been up there and looked, and it just, there's water all over the place. It looks,
perfect conditions, like all of the little, yes,
it's got all the things. It's got all the bells and whistles,
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly. And we will have the cook ladies there. Of course, we have to cook for everybody. Yes. So
who cook amazing. These ladies are phenomenal. Cindy and Marty, another Marty.
Yeah. So they will be there for that. And I've got it pretty well lined out. We've got a couple of really good speakers that are going to be there, so, and let me just tell you, I'm not going to tell you who I've got lined up for the conference yet, but we got some phenomenal people lined up this year. So when we get ready and start to put that conference out, y'all better get your tickets, because I think we're going to sell out.
Oh, it's going to sell out. It's going to more than sell. Like tickets are going to go. They're going to go quick. Very quick.
She's in the know. Yeah, she's in the know. She can tell you.
That I can tell you. They're going to sell out very fast. So you guys be watching. Now you're going to be doing some announcements on your Facebook page, right?
We'll be doing announcements on Facebook page. We'll be doing announcements here. What is it you call that? Yeah. My press tour is going to be starting.
Yes, yes. Marianne's press tour will be, today is the kickoff. Tonight is the kickoff to her press tour. And she's going to be getting on some podcast, and she'll be letting you guys know. I will also be letting you guys know where you'll be able to see her and hear her and go and check her out on some podcasts. I can't say who some of them are because they confidential. But
but we'll tell you when it comes up, because we've got some stuff going on. And Shane says that he's going to be putting on a pole dancing contest, so that'll be interesting. So does that include the bacon too?
Does that include the bacon too? Oh, okay. I'm hoping it includes the bacon, because bacon is my spirit animal. I mean, I'm just saying. It's my spirit animal.
I'll tell you what, if you don't want to go bigfooting, just coming and interacting with us, we can entertain you. Let me tell you, we can entertain you.
We can entertain you. Oh, we go. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Cindy's right. It can be a very greasy situation up in those woods. But we have a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun. We have a lot of, laughs and stories, and it's going to be phenomenal. It's going to be another amazing time.
Yeah, we had so much fun. I was so tired last year, but I had so much fun. I just, and made so many friends. That's the thing. I have so many new friends that I'm just waiting to see that grease pole.
Me too. Me too. Him and Patrick are going to be all over there making it rain.
Oh my gosh.
Oh boy.
Oh, yeah. Well, I didn't tell you, but Shane and I are hitting the woods in a couple of days. He's got
Oh,
time off.
good.
I took time off. Right. Right. Yeah, we're
That's
gonna try to get out in the
fantastic.
woods in a couple of days. Told my husband, I said, "Oh yeah,
Good.
by the way, I'm going to the woods with a man in a couple of days." And he
Right?
goes, "Mm-hmm."
All right. It's Shane.
It's Shane. He's like, okay. What can I say?
Oh gosh. Well,
Yeah,
thank you for, this was all Mary Ann's idea for her to kind of come on and interview me, and because I have told some of my experiences, but not really ever actually kind of got it all out there in one show. And thank you. Thank you. I thought this was really a lot of fun.
it has been fun. It has been fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And Marianne's going to co-host with me a little bit here and there when she's available, when she's got some availability. And I know I've got a few people in mind already of who we can come on and talk to. And I think I think it's going to be a lot of fun, guys. So stay tuned.
For more
Stay tuned
shenanigans.
for more shenanigans. Exactly. More and more shenanigans. And let me, before we go really quickly, Patrick, thank you so very much. I really appreciate that. I love you. Love you. Cindy, thank you. That was so sweet of you as well. I love you too. Lenny, thank you. You guys are amazing to me and bless me every day. You guys are a good support system for me, and I've kind of needed it over the last few months, big time. And you guys have been amazing. So thank you guys so much. Shenanigans should start with Shane. Shenanigans?
They do
Is that
usually start
Shane,
with shenanigans. Mm-hmm.
Shenanigans?
Yeah.
All right, that's what we need. T-shirts that say Squatch Bait on the front or the back and Shenanigans on the other side, which I will have to figure out.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go. There we go. We got new shirts, Shane. We got new
Yep,
shirts.
there we
They're
go.
going to be on sale at the conference.
Yeah, yeah.
Stop
Get your
licking me.
shenanigan shirts.
Shane, stop licking me. Is going to be on there too.
Yeah,
Somewhere.
yep, yep. All the catchphrases.
All the catchphrases. Thank you, Mary Ann. This has been so much fun. I
Oh,
can't
thank
wait.
you.
You and I are gonna get our schedules together and see when you can come back and co-host with me a few times and get your feet a little wet so you can be all nice and like, yeah, I got another podcast because I'm telling you, I got to get you pumped up, girl, for this press tour you're gonna
Oh, I
do.
know, I know.
Let's
Yeah.
get you ready. We didn't break the universe, Shane. That's a plus.
Not yet. Not yet.
Not yet. Plans to, but not yet. Not yet. We'll give
Mhm.
you a warning. We'll let y'all know.
Maybe, maybe.
Maybe. Well, thank you guys all so much for being here tonight. Thank you, Marianne, for being here. And I thought this was so much fun. I cannot wait to have you back to co-host with me again. And you guys, you stay here. Don't go anywhere. And
I
all
will.
of you over there, thank you all for being here. Don't forget, please spread love and kindness wherever you go.